Today we are going to cover one of the most functional patterns we see in daily life, the hip hinge. This is the most dominant pattern we see whether we're talking about training or just functional life. We can talk about getting up and out of bed, tying our shoes, picking up a bag of groceries, picking up our kid. We can also talk about training in regards to deadlifting, squatting, RDLs, etc., etc. Our goal is to establish a solid hip hinge pattern so we can avoid many of the injuries that come along with training and also life. When we talk about this pattern, we want to initiate by loading our hips and our posterior chain, or simply put, just our glutes and our hips. Now, again, regardless of what type of hinge we're talking about, we always want to make sure we are dialing in a proper hip hinge. Prior to addressing the specifics of the hip hinge pattern, it's important that we cover what activation should look like. Now notice, we're not talking about the conventional warm-up. We're talking about activation. Making tissue active is what will help keep our spine safe and our muscle groups responsive. Now, it's tough to predict what different ranges of motion and suboptimal patterns we'll move throughout the day, and this is why proper activation before movement is incredibly important. We take a top-down approach to teaching hinging and lifts at sole. First step, we're going to ask that you set up with your feet slightly wider than shoulder width, toes pointed forward. Now, place a dowel or PVC on your lower back. Grab one end with the right hand on your upper back, with the left hand holding the opposite end around the small curve of your lower back. Your PVC or dowel now should run from the base of your skull or behind your head down the spine towards your sacrum. First step is a soft break of your knees and allowing your weight to shift back on your heels while pushing your hips towards the wall behind you. While performing the hinge, your PVC or dowel should never lose contact with your back. Now reverse the pattern by squeezing glutes and pushing hips forward. Mastering this skill is a work in progress and plays a key role in life and athletics. Developing a habit of flexing your low back instead of learning how to control or manipulate your hips is something that is very common. A lower back dominant pattern isolates the spine instead of allowing the larger and more dominant posterior chain muscles to protect your spine and hips.